Great defeaters, new and old, welcome back. I believe this is episode 70 of the breakdown. It could be 71. I have to double check. With your host, BaseDaKID. Now, unfortunately, Tony is on the injured reserve at the moment. He's not well. However, I have been fortunate enough to secure the services of a trusted partner of the show. So I want everyone to big up my guy, Danny Glover, who's managed to bring himself in. I think he's on the day job at the moment. Danny, how you feeling?
I'm all right. I'm doing a night shift, mate. So I'm doing the graveyard shift, sir. I
Look,
pulled in the
I hope you don't get yourself in trouble doing the graveyard shift coming in.
no. Luckily, I've got a promotion, so I'm a bit of a boss around here now. So, but still,
Nice.
but it's nice
Fair
to,
enough.
but yeah, call me the final minute, literally. But yeah, man, because it's you guys, only for you guys.
I
This
hear
guy.
that. Look, I was totally prepared to run solo, but I appreciate it and appreciate the fact that you did show up. And now you know what? Since you are here, what we should maybe do, we normally would save this until the end, right? But um my guy Sean George has actually decided to come in early. He's like, you know what? I ain't doing anything right now. I don't want to wait till 9:45. I want to come in and get my takes off early. I want to give you guys the story from early. So I guess what we can do before we even get into any of our breakdown talks, and maybe even Sean might be happy to sort of help us with this. But I just want to big up and everyone say hello to the guy Sean George. Sean, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. How's everything going, guys?
Yo,
Hey,
we
Danny.
we're, we're doing okay, man. We're working over here.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that.
Mm,
The guy's busy
Uh,
over there. I see.
a
Big,
little
big
bit.
weekend
I'm
just
gonna
passed.
I'm gonna change the layout and put you in big screen where you deserve to be. Right. Right. So, I guess first couple things I want to sort of speak to you about is right. So we know we had the Joe Joyce fight. What was it, about a month ago now? How's everything sort of changed since, like, obviously that? Whereas on the first one, it was kind of, oh, well, was it a fluke, or did Joe just ill prepare? And now we sort of got a definitive answer. Like, how has things been since then, and has anything sort of changed on your side?
Zhilei is being recognized worldwide now. He had a good homecoming back in China. Um, People recognize him more. People is putting. He's a legit contender, I should say. You also have the same old business that okay, what's next now? Because we're still trying to find our next opponent. We know that we're mandatory to fight Usyk, but we have to wait for a couple of fights to take place. Tyson Fury, Usyk. Um, we gotta see what the WBO does since I think the IBF is going to um enforce Herkovich to fight someone else. I think they talk about Anthony Joshua. Who knows? But we'll see. But
Okay, so with regards to, I guess, that, and you're saying like you're trying to look for the next opponent. Is that more difficult now, or is it actually easier, especially as maybe like Zhilei's got actually something that maybe other people might want? Is that what that enticed them in, or no?
it should be right. We have a number one position. We in line to fight for the. We're number one. We're the number one heavyweight in the world, and we should be fighting our next fight for the mandatory spot for the WBO, which Usyk actually holds, and with three other belts as well. Um, but like the Anthony Joshua's, the Deontay Wilders, they refuse to say Gillette name. They have this thing where they just want to fight each other or fight a big. They're looking for they already have one foot out the door. I don't think they have the soul, not the heart to fight a competitive person anymore, other than each other. That's what you seen Saturday that happened with Tyson Fury. He was just one of those guys that okay, he thought it was going to be an easy fight. He thought that everybody know that he's a lineal champion, heavyweight champion of the world. Everybody know that he's like 10 feet tall, that he could fight orthodox, he could fight southpaw, that he's heavy, he could fight on the inside. So he tried to live off his name. Well, Ngannou, he showed you that okay, you have to fight, you have to train, you have to come prepared to fight. But that's the same way he approaching the game. It's the same way Deontay Wilder is approaching the game. It's the same way Anthony Joshua approaching the game. They're living off their name and they're not being competitive anymore. And that's not fair for us as boxing fans.
So with regards to that, I mean, who realistically do you think you can get in the ring as a keep busy up until you get that title fight?
Um, who's there right now? We will fight anybody. We fight anybody as long as or we could sit down and wait. You know what I mean? What do anybody else bring to the table? Like we're not afraid of fighting styles. Zhilei is always competitive. We don't care who the person is, but what do you bring to the table? We have the number one position, right? We have something to lose going into this fight. Like it's not like Deontay Wilder. When was the last time he fought? Like a
Last
year
October.
ago. Yeah, but people still rank him as high as number 3 in the heavyweight division. But before that he fought Robert Helenius, and then before then he got knocked out by Tyson Fury twice, and was a draw. So why is he considered number 3? Because of his reputation. You understand? It's what you do lately. It's all about what you do, what you're doing now. When it comes down to that kind of stuff. Same thing with Anthony Joshua. Like don't get me wrong, he's saying busy and he's trying to keep busy, but he's not really fighting anybody with any names. They say he's trying. Eddie Hearn, he throws everybody's name. He talks about everybody else, but Eddie Hearn had Zhilei in his stable. Why did Zhilei leave? There's a reason behind all that kind of stuff. So I'm just saying, like, we want to fight anybody. We don't care the style. We're gonna make those adjustments. Zhilei is built to make adjustments. You guys are now seeing that Zhilei is not just a knockout, not just a power puncher. He can actually box a little bit. He does have hand speed. He does have footwork. He does have defense. He can fight. His boxing IQ is higher than most. And that's the other thing too that drives me nuts. In April, after we beat Joe Joyce, in April, not the first time around, everyone was talking about, oh, we're close to making a fight with Tyson Fury. I don't ever believe that was going to be that fight was going to happen. It's just one of those situations where Tyson just says things to try to manipulate the scene and say the craziest thing and do different things. But there's a reason why Tyson Fury doesn't want to fight Zhilei. I really believe that. You know what I mean? You seen the shots that he was getting hit with. He was afraid Saturday night. He was afraid to clinch. He was afraid to get in on the inside. He was afraid of the hand speed of Ngannou. There was a lot of things going on, and Ngannou is a big unit. So it's just, I don't know. The sport right now is just frustrating.
So I'm assuming you watched the event. I mean, what was your sort of opinions on Tyson and Ngannou? Like, were you surprised by how it went, or did you think that actually, no, I knew this guy was going to be better than what most people felt? How did you see it?
I bet on Ngannou on 3 different ways.
I
Ngannou
saw
on the
that.
knockout. Ngannou on the knockout. Ngannou try to predict the round, 4th round, came close, and then Ngannou on the split decision win. It was his approach to Tyson Fury and the whole event was serious. Every stare down they had, it was different. Fury wasn't distracting him. Ngannou was focused. He was on a mission. He knew exactly what he needed to do. The way he was looking at Tyson Fury at every stare down. He was looking at his stomach. He was sizing him up. It was like a predator, like a lion looking at his meal. Like, okay, how am I going to get him? How am I going to sneak up on him? How am I going to attack him? Every single face to face that they had. Go back, look at the videos. Look at Ngannou, how he was just looking at Tyson Fury, how he was reading him, looking at his body language, looking at his stomach, right? Just looking right at Tyson Fury, like, man, I see you. I know who you are right now. And Tyson Fury knew that, but he couldn't do anything. He's already stuck into the contract. So I'm telling you.
Yeah, interesting that you say that, because what I did notice about that is for Ngannou, he's a lot more. Well, he's a very intelligent man, because for English being his 3rd language, I believe, he was able to counter every single joke or verbal swipe that Fury had for him, he was able to always counter, from when he mentioned his genitalia area to when he mentioned, "Oh, you're fat." He was like, "Well, fat guy, you beat people, you're fat." He was always able to counter Fury, where normally when Fury starts going on his rants, people either just stay silent or they try to start using his words, but the delivery's off. Like when Wilder starts saying "you doss," it doesn't work, or they just try to cuss and it doesn't work. But he was actually very quick-witted in always firing a joke back, which always had Fury awkwardly laughing. So Fury realized he couldn't get into his head, which was
It was a psychological game. Boxing is really psychological. It's physical. Don't get me wrong. You're getting hit and you put a lot of physical work in it too. But like Tyson Fury, and I say he lost because I really thought that he lost the fight. I'm not just saying this, right? But he lost that fight because of his arrogance. He's reading his press clippings. He just I'm Tyson Fury, and bow down to me, and everybody's supposed to bow down to a Tyson Fury. I've been watching him. I've been watching him for quite a few years, from when he beat Klitschko. No, actually, before that, he beat my guy Steve Cunningham in New York. Um, and I noticed some things I noticed a lot of things about him, but it was funny who exposed it. That, to me, that was the biggest thing, because I'm looking at him like, wow, Ngannou's footwork is crazy right now. Nobody's talking about his footwork. Nobody's talking about how Tyson Fury thought he had him, and then all of a sudden he took one step out and he was out of range, or he was falling in, or when he got on the inside, Tyson was reaching to grab him. People didn't understand these kind of things, But the sport of boxing has a lot. It's not just physical. It's not just mental. It's a combination of things, And the media, they built Tyson Fury up to be like, oh, the best light heavyweight champion of the world, not light heavyweight champion of the world, and no, there is no best. On any given night, anybody can lose, especially in the heavyweight division, especially.
True.
So it doesn't matter. Everybody can punch. Did y'all hear that interview with Eddie Hearn, where he was like, Tyson Fury could stick his chin up in the air and take a punch on Ngannou because they can't strike. I was just like, why are you saying that? Like, you don't sound. I don't know, but yeah.
I think he was just trying to downplay the event. To be honest, I'm not gonna lie. I think Eddie was salty that he wasn't involved in it, because that was probably bigger than the one that he done with Andy Ruiz and the one that he done with Usyk. I think he was obviously a little bit hurt by that, especially as this is like Riyadh season, whereas his ones were like summertime or December last time. All right, so did you watch the rest of the event?
Yes, I did.
All right. The reason I asked that, because look, there was about 5 other heavyweights on there. Some of them could be considered contenders right now. You had Arslanbek Makhmudov on there. You had Joseph Parker, Martin Bakole, obviously Fabio Wardley. So
I didn't see the Bakole fight. I didn't see the Bakole fight. I missed that fight, but Bakole's a good fighter as well.
Yeah. Now that was on the before the main broadcast bits. That was on YouTube. Him and Takam. But all right, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because obviously, if you're looking at sort of, I guess, keep busy, if you don't obviously want Zhilei to get himself, inactive or have to worry about any ring rust, there was fighters on the undercard. Were there any of those that maybe you were looking at to say potentially this could be a situation, especially considering they're all now on a big pay-per-view platform, so they can bring their own eyeballs and attention to a potential fight?
I don't know. Joe Parker, what I would say. I don't. I believe they fought in the amateurs, actually, Zhilei and Parker as well. The big guy from Canada. Well, not from Canada. He trains with
Arslanbek Makhmudov, yeah.
Yeah, Makhmudov, yeah. Yeah, like I'm really not afraid of any, like, I can't stress enough how much I've seen of Zhilei to understand, like, okay, there's no style that's going to make him uncomfortable. When it comes down to that, all I'm saying is at this point that is number one in the world, and he is in line to fight for his next title next, right? So, or if Zhilei to fight those guys, then pay him. We have no issue with fighting anybody when it comes down to those we have no issues at all. Anybody on the undercard, Fabio, that's Fabio Wardley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just young. So I don't think if it, he's not ready yet. But he's a young guy, but he that was an impressive win when he fought the other guy. I just
Yeah,
But yeah, nobody in particular right now. It really
yeah.
doesn't
So
matter. It really doesn't matter. You could give me the name. Okay, cool. No, I have no problem matching Zhilei up with any one of those guys. All I'm saying now is like, okay, pay us for it. Cause we are in line. We're waiting. Joe Joyce, he wanted to pick Zhilei, to stay busy, right? Okay, I have no problem with that, right? And Zhilei wants to be active. He wants to stay active. He doesn't want. He's not one of these fighters that does not want to fight. He wants to be in the ring. He wants to fight. Jalei's in the gym today. I just left him. Just got home from working with him.
okay.
So we're in the gym already.
Yeah.
Are,
So
are there
so
any
what?
plans to? Sorry, Danny. One second. Are there any plans for him to do anything in China then? Because that's been a big talking point of trying to get a fight over there, and that's what Eddie Hearn said. Look, he'd be more than happy to do it if he can get AJ over in China in the bird's nest or something. So is that something you might be interested in?
Yeah, that's Eddie Hearn looking for another promoter, not promoting. Here's an issue with Jalei, in my opinion, and promoters. They think automatically it's a slam dunk and they don't have to do work. I have issues with promoters that don't want to do their work. They don't really promote. So like China, you see, okay, so Jalei beat Joe Joyce his last fight, right? He goes back home and they have a homecoming for him. I mean, it was incredible. It's a big
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? The more he fights outside, the more the fun comes in. The funds comes. But like you know what I mean, like Yao Ming. Think about Yao Ming when he first. You know who Yao Ming is, right? The basketball
Yeah,
player.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, when he first came to the NBA. Remember that year when he was in the All Star game? He got voted in by the Chinese from the Chinese basketball from the Chinese citizens to play for the All Star game and took Shaquille O'Neal number one position. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They will support any event that will come out there, but you got to make it big and make it big out here before you go back to China. You know,
Oh, okay.
and that, excuse me, my son's coming in.
Go for
That's
it.
my
Go for it.
dog's barking. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you haven't muted, but it's fine. You can carry on if you want. It's all good.
Yeah. So yeah. So but it just takes for me. I think it just takes the promoters being able to work with. Um, sorry, I have like three dogs. They barking in the back.
It's all good. It's all good. Keep
Yeah.
going, man.
The XL
Um.
bullies.
Huh?
Are they
No,
XL bullies?
one more time.
Are they XL bullies?
Um, German Shepherd, Pitbull, Chihuahua. Mm.
Whose
Yeah.
is the
So
Chihuahua?
the Chihuahua try to runs the household. Yeah, but yeah, the German Shepherd is a protector. My pit, she's on point too. But it's just yeah, you
Yeah.
get
I
loud.
hear that.
Okay, we're good now. Sorry about that.
It's all good. Yeah, Danny, so you wanted to say something?
Yeah. So when is it you started working with Zhilei Zhang, and when you started your first sort of sessions with him, what was it that most surprised you about him whilst working with him?
I started to work with him after I retired from the sport of boxing. It was 2010. I started to work with him. He was an amateur boxer. The first thing that surprised me about him was his size, because you guys know who Lou Duva is, right?
Yeah.
Look, he used to be a manager. He took over the whole '84 team. Mark Breeden, Cornell Whitaker, Evander Holyfield, those guys. He was my manager as well. And he asked me what I was going to do after I retired. I was like, I don't know. We'll see. You know, he said he had something for me in New York City. Come down to the USA versus China duel meet. So Jalei, out comes Jalei. This guy had to been you 6'6", 250 pounds at the time, but 6'6" southpaw, and he knocks out the American boxer. And I was just like, yo, this guy is different. With the power, the speed. He was a boxer. His style was completely different from what it is right now.
Mm.
Um, so they asked me to come down to the Poconos. We come down to the Poconos, and then they gave him some pad work. They liked it. They actually invited me back to China. I ended up living in China for 8 years, working with the Chinese national team along with Chile. But that's how we started. So that's why we know each other very, very well.
Okay. How much Mandarin or Cantonese did you manage to pick up while you was out there?
I can understand. It's a hard language to learn because of the different tones. Um, like in the corner, I speak Chinese. Um, it's it's just the different tones, and you can't read the characters, so it makes it much harder to do anything. But I could communicate with Jalay back and forth. He knows a little bit English. I know a little bit Chinese, and we go back and forth when it comes down to that kind of stuff.
Nice. Okay, okay. Um, I want to ask you a little bit about you for a moment. Obviously, I appreciate you. Your career is kind of over and done, but this is like your second career. This is the second coming of
Absolutely.
yourself, bringing in such a a big talented heavyweight, very avoided. But you personally, like, how did you get into boxing? Like from your amateur days and like growing up, what was it about sort of boxing that attracted you?
I used to fight. So I was a young kid. By the time I was 11 years old, I've been to 5 different schools. My parents used to move around a lot.
Mm.
So I was always a new kid in school. I had a very bad speech impediment. You could hear it a little bit now when I speak. Um, so people couldn't understand the words that was coming out of my mouth, and the kids used to tease me for it. So I used to get into fights in school all the time.
Mm.
I used to get suspended. I used to get into trouble. Like I said, a new kid in school. So my dad was like one day he asked me like do you win these fights? You know me, 11-year-old kid. Like yeah, I win these fights. It's all right. I'm gonna take you down to the boxing gym. And that's where it started in 1990, 1992, 1991 actually. It took me a year to learn, and then 1992 I had my first fight. No,
Nice. How did that one go?
I won. I definitely won. It was one of the. I'm getting inducted into the New Jersey Hall of Fame next week.
Oh,
Um,
congrats.
and thank you. And that fight, I was thinking about it the other day, and that was probably the only fight that when I see my opponent, I was afraid. It was just I was a 12-year-old kid walking in, and I was weighing 132 pounds, and I didn't have muscle, but he had muscle. He looks like, in my mind, looked like he had a beard. He didn't have a beard, but looked like he had a beard and everything else. And I was just like, man. But then, so when the bell rung, it was on. Like it was toe to toe action from round one to round three. Um, on the reason why I won that fight, I had better defense. My bob and weaving and my defense was better. But it was a tough fight. It was a strong fight. Um, yeah, but I won. It was a good fight. And then from there on, I went on a rampage. Didn't lose anything for a while until the Junior Olympics 4 years later. But yeah, that was good.
Good stuff. Obviously, I know my colleague Danny over here, he's a former amateur as well, so I'm sure he can relate to those early nerve jitters. I didn't quite go down that route, but yeah.
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 With regard, so
Mm.
in your amateurs then, what was like your um for you, like either your highest moment or your crowning achievement or the thing that you remember the most fondly from your amateur career?
Winning the New York Golden Gloves 2 years in a row, back to back, because me and Riddick Bowe came from the same gym, and I was in the same weight class as Riddick Bowe when he was fighting in the amateurs. So um, so when I won in 1996, when I won the New York Golden Gloves, and then somebody said I can't do it again, so I did it the next year, and then they said, "Oh, Riddick Bowe did the same thing." I was like, "Yeah, that was it right there." I won nationals before. I won. Um, I before international. I did a lot in the amateurs. I never got to the top, but like during the amateurs, I'd be in a lot of different names in there as well. But the New York Golden Gloves, I would have to say, was my biggest, not my biggest, my personal achievement in the sport in amateur boxing.
No, that's brilliant, man. Okay, so for
And I
you,
was 16 and 17 years old when I did it against grown
oh,
men. So I was just like, all right, I'm going to do this because Riddick Bowe did it. I'm going to do the same thing. So that's what happened.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So who was your for you like your biggest win against? Obviously, you won tournaments, you won nationals and stuff like that. Who was the person you like? Yeah, in your amateur days, I'm talking about. Who did you like? Yeah, no, that to me was the victory.
Steve Cunningham. I beat him in the U.S. Nationals, and I beat him in the PL Nationals twice. Um, Delvin Vargas, he was Olympian in 2000. Um, yeah, Felix Cora, but I would say Steve Cunningham because Steve Cunningham, he was a genius as a professional. He fought Tyson Fury, put him down
Yeah.
as well.
No,
Um,
Cunningham was
Cruiserweight
serious.
champion, yeah, cruiserweight champion. He never ducked anybody, And in reality, he's a good friend of mine as well. Now when we're talking, even when we first met in the amateurs, before we even fought, he was always a down to earth guy and everything else. So this was the year where he won the national Golden Gloves. So I was like, oh, he won the national Golden Gloves, and then they put him in the ring with me. I was like, all right, I gotta go to work. So I beat him in the U.S. Nationals, and then I beat him in the PAL Nationals. Yes, I would say he was my biggest win in the amateurs.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. So with regards to that, then, so if we move over to like your pro career for a little bit, now you had some pretty some pretty impressive wins as a pro, but career was a little bit shorter. Like, what happened sort of with that, and did you have any regrets when you had to sort of ultimately retire?
It was a politics. After my biggest win that everybody knows about when I beat Chris Bird, right? Chris Bird was number 5 in the light heavyweight division when I fought him. So one, I should have took that number one, the number 5 spot after I knocked him out. The WBC was like, "Oh, we want to give you the number 7 spot." Um, then he had a lot of injuries too. When I lost to Chris Henry, I had an asthma attack. I never spoke about it, but in the middle of the fight, I had an asthma attack, and I was like, "This is too many injuries and too many things going on, and I'm not getting the fights I wanted." I wanted to fight the Joe Calzakis. I wanted to fight Glenn Johnson. I wanted to fight Antonio Tarver. I wanted to fight Bernard Hopkins. Those guys was all in my division, and those are guys I wanted to fight. But for the boxing politics and coming down to I couldn't fight these guys for whatever reason. I was too good, or people just didn't want to risk it. That whatever the situation may be, like everybody was talking about fighting Chris Bird, and then so when I beat him, nobody wanted to fight me. So the motivation
Right,
wasn't there either. So yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that. I hear that. Well, look, Dan, you got anything else you want to ask real quick?
Yeah. So when you did win the NABA title, how did that feel when you fought Chad Van Sickle? Because that was
It was
a
great.
win.
Yeah, I did it in front of my idol, Sugar Ray Leonard. That was dope. It was in Washington D.C. Um, I moved up to cruiserweight division because of the shoulder injury that I had, and the doctor said, "Well, I got to put on weight. I can't keep losing weight if you want the shoulder to heal properly." So when I fought Chad Van Sinkle, I was just like, "All right, no problem. I don't care. You fighting for this title." He was defending champion. I took the title from him. Um, it was a good victory. It was a great feeling to have.
And stuff. Well, look, Shaun, if you just want to let everyone know where they can find you, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing some love to the channel. And yeah, anything that's happening, like, please let us know. So, what's your socials? Let people know.
I'm on Instagram and Tread, and X, the new Twitter. Sean George 101. You can find me anywhere else. Excuse me.
Oh, no, don't worry
Yeah.
about it. It's fine.
Okay. It's Sean George 101 on Instagram, Twitter, and Tread.
Okay, what I'm gonna do when we end the stream, I'm gonna pin that to the chat for everyone so that they can go follow the socials. And yeah, obviously, me and you're gonna keep in touch. When you do find out some more news, please let me know. I want to be able to try and support however I can. But I do
Thank you.
appreciate your time, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right,
Much
take care.
appreciated. Bless you, Sean.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Goodbye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's put the layout back to where it was previously. And I might as well change the little overlay while I'm here as well. So Danny, how you feeling, man? How's everything?
Yeah, man, all's good. Yeah, just You know, I was at the Manny Suave. I was working at the Manny Suave event on Sunday. That was something else, mate. That I've never been to a party. Like I wish I wasn't working. So yeah, very extravagant.
Okay. Well, look, so we're half an hour in. I think that we can pretty much get the rest of this one done fairly quickly. We've got 5 fights to talk about. We're going to start with the Amanda Serrano fight. Did you watch that, her and Danila Ramos?
Yeah, remember we was tweeting together.
Just making sure, because what I thought, no, I wasn't tweeting in that fight. Oh
Yes,
no, I
you
did
were.
a couple right at the end, right at the end. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
No, because you said early when you was like, "Oh, I can't believe about the ring so big."
That ring looked like it was 24 by 24.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The joke
yeah.
is, all right, so before we even talk about the fight, the ring, right? So you tell me there was not one fight that took place above welterweight, and the ring was that big. Like and then I'm thinking to myself, we went down to Cancun, and they was clearly in what looked like a 16 by 16. Like, whose idea was that? Like, what you're gonna have someone like Amanda Serrano, who's never been the greatest at cutting off the ring. She pretty much does follow her opponents around. She can throw, she can throw for days, but she doesn't have the way to like stop people from moving. Like they always, if they want to get away, they can get away. And you put her in the biggest ring you can find on the one time when you want her to be able to get to work in 12 3-minute rounds. Like, in your opinion, how did who came up with that game plan?
Well, if she came up with that as the A side, then that's shocking because she always literally walks forward like she's walking down the street. She doesn't do the typical boxers glide forward or jump forward or hop skip forward. She literally just walks forward and follows you around. Like, and as you said in your video on your channel, that for someone who's been a pro for how many years, and she's got about nearly 50 fights. She's not learned how to step across during in the corners and cut the ring off. It was just it was amazing. But Ramos, yeah, she was a good mover. I'll tell you that much. She's got nice fleet feet, and she was able to keep out of the way. And the problem is with Amanda Serrano, because she's not able to cut the ring off for someone who is actually a puncher, even though she's not built. Like, people don't talk about her as a puncher, but she is a puncher because she hurts everyone she gets in the ring with. She's got quite a lot of knockouts on her record as well. Like, and she's gone through the weights. Like, she goes up and down the weights quite a lot. So, yeah, for someone who's a puncher, she should have wanted to make the ring smaller. But yeah, Ramos is a good mover. Once she got tagged, I think she thought, "Oh, this hurts. Let me stay safe and just try and like use the counter left hook as she comes in here and there." But Amanda, yeah, she worked well, done what she needed to do to get the win. But it would have been better if she did stop her and she nearly stopped. There was a body shot late on. I think it was about the 10th round. Yeah, it was 10th. It was the 10th round, and that really hurt Ramos. And Ramos had to like try and survive. And I was like, "Oh, I think she's going to get her in the 11th or 12th." But Ramos was able to survive. And yeah, Serrano won, but it just wasn't a good advertisement for women's 12 rounders because we know that a lot of the other women are not going to be as action packed. So if she needed to get the knockout, really. So what was your verdict?
Yeah, I mean, look, pretty much similar to you. The one thing I feel like is she had Ramos hurt in several moments in that fight. And normally she's a good finisher when she's against a person that, as you said, like someone that's not really a mover. But I've noticed that whenever someone changes their style and changes their ability to have to move, then she almost is like because she has to plant her feet, she can't throw punches while moving. Someone like Golovkin he can throw that jab while he's in transition. And like a lot of the slick boxers are able to do that. She has to set her stance to throw a shot, especially with one of her harder shots. And so she was getting frustrated in obviously not being able to close the show, even though she's unlanding 4, 5, 6 punches at a time. And obviously every time that she got Danila Ramos hurt, rather than in trying to stay composed and go to the body, and take her legs, because every time that she's taking her legs away, that's when it was really starting to be an issue, when she was digging to the body. But she kept then trying to headhunt, looking for that, that sort of that clinical finish, whereby the last couple of fights that she's won by KO, from especially the last one, I remember specifically, was a body shot. And she stops a lot of her opponents to the body more than she stops them to the head, or at least that she does the majority of the damage down there. So I was a bit frustrated that when she was getting through her motion, that she wasn't, she wasn't employing more body punching. Like if she, she's got her wobbled, okay, dig to the body. She tries to cover up the head, get underneath. When she tries to exit out, throw a body shot on her way out, like rather than trying to go and for the head, because the head's a smaller target. The body's there all day, but the head's a lot smaller. So that was sort of my opinion on it. But I mean, outside of that, look, ultimately it was a dominant performance. I don't I can't really say that she done anything wrong as such, because she didn't. The only problem was that she ultimately didn't that ultimately she just didn't close the show, or implement the right tactics to close the show. But outside of that, I mean, she won every round. Ramos was competitive in the first stanza, and she was competitive in the third. And then sort of in the second stanza, she was just kind of there almost in a survival mode. But I think at the last one, she thought, all right, I'm just going to move. I'm just going to try and walk her down, walk her into shots. And she had success when she stopped trying to fight toe to toe for between sort of rounds 1 to 4. She had more success trying to move on the back foot, catch Serrano coming in, and then ultimately sort of like angle out before Serrano can really get to her. But she just obviously couldn't keep it up, and her shots just weren't hitting as hard. But it was an enjoyable fight to watch. It was just one of those ones that was very frustrating, because that she was ready for the taking. And I think that's the thing that sort of frustrates with it a lot more. And ultimately, it's a case of everyone says, well, all the women keep saying, well, if we have 3 minutes, then we get a lot more knockouts. Or someone like Michaela Mayer said numerous times, if I had that third minute, I would have got a lot more stoppages. I'd be able to go to work on my opponents. 2 minutes isn't enough. So you've got all these people saying that. You've had Serrano say that before, and then it's like, well, now you have the opportunity, and I just felt like you didn't capitalize on it. Now, obviously, look, some people just can't get knocked out. If they don't want to, they're not going to. That's just how it is. But
Yeah.
I just feel in that particular instance, you had every advantage to make that happen. And outside of the ring being as big as it was, like, yeah, there was no reason for you not to. All you need to do is learn to step to the side more. And if you did that once or twice, you could have pinned her, trapped her in the corner, and just got busy. Because if you trap her in the corner, she ain't getting nowhere. You know what I mean?
No, and I could see that she was able to be cut off. She wasn't. Her feet was good, but it weren't that good. If she stepped across, she could have pinned her. She wasn't that slippery, but there was just nothing stopping her, basically. So
Yeah. Okay. So with that, now let's move over to the card in Saudi Arabia. We weren't going to talk about too many of the fights, so we're literally just going to talk about the well, okay, first of all, I got to give a little big up to Martin Bakole, because I think you, like me, I said personally, if it goes past 4 rounds, he's in trouble. Now, obviously, I didn't say that on my video, but once I'd seen the weigh-in, that's all I was commenting. That's what I was commenting in my chat. That's what I was commenting on Twitter. If it's anything more than 4 rounds, he's in trouble. Well, he did it in 4 rounds. And it was vicious body shots as well. He's a good combination puncher, and he's one of the few heavyweights that really does go to the body and sort of really dig those shots in. What did you think of his performance?
yeah. He's for a heavyweight at his size, whether he's got the big belly or not, his volume punching is very impressive. He probably is the most. He probably has the highest volume of punches out of the the top sort of 15 heavyweights out there. And that's what causes a lot of people a lot of problems. And I think that's what will cause even the top boys problems. So that's why, yes, we all want to see AJ Fury, AJ Wilder, Fury, Usyk. But as a champion, this is why Fury's reign needs to be really tested because you need to go against so many different styles and overcome so many different attributes from various fighters. And Bakole's has attributes which will cause many of the top guys problems. And a good body puncher as well, which heavyweights nowadays don't really do, as we know. We know they're more into the the 1-2 or the 1-2 left hook at best. Whereas the guys from the 90s, if you're talking about the Riddick Bows of the world and the Holyfields, they were going down and upstairs, which Martin Bakole does. Yeah, the belly was a bit alarming at the weigh-in, but no, my old adage, built for show and built to go, two different things. So I wasn't
but the thing is though, there's built to go, but you could tell that his goal had a limit. You could tell that if it got past a certain level, even yourself, right? You could say that you're built to go, but if it goes past a certain amount of time, it's a little more techie, right? So we're not talking. It's not all about six packs and that, but come on, let's be real.
Yeah, I know. There is a limit. And yeah, he did look like because what I noticed, he looked even embarrassed about it because that's why he stuck the T-shirt saying some kind of God quote around it, right? He stuck it around his waist. So even he knew that the midriff needed some work, but I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Did he have long to train for this fight or something?
Well, do you know what? To be fair, after the fight, he did say he was in Fury camp and he had a back injury and he could only really train for like the last 2 weeks or something like that. So I don't know how long the injury was for or how long the notice he had for the fight. But he said, yeah, he's only really able to train properly for 2 weeks.
Oh,
That's me.
So
But the thing is, though, with that, I always, and I said to someone, I can't remember who it was, but I'm like, all right, I understand if you can't train and you're unable to move or whatever, I get it because it's impairing, but eat less, manage your calories. If you're not burning as many calories, manage your calories. It's, you know what I mean? I feel like it's sometimes it's a bit it's a bit of a cop when you say to yourself, for his last fight, he was what, he was in the 270s. So you put on nearly 2 stone since then. Obviously, there's partly inactive, but you can't. I don't think you could. A lot of these guys say, "Oh yeah, we're always in the gym or we're just ticking over, waiting for a fight." I don't really think they are, because I don't see how you can put on 2 stone and you're just in the gym doing something. I'm in the gym 5 times a week, right? And I don't even do any cardio, more time or not. I can barely put on any size, you know what I mean? So to me, I just don't quite get it, and I don't understand sort of where that where that comes from. But
a lot with, remember, he's gonna be he seems like a traditional man, so maybe he eats a lot of starchy foods or something like that in his diet, which will put on a lot of size a lot quickly. Because yeah, I like my yard food, but I know I can't be eating yam and banana and all that type of stuff and dumplings, boiled dumplings too much, because I know straight away that's gonna blow me up. So you got to take it easy. But some man, they like the pounded yam and the kenke bank, and they get busy, and that will put on the size very. And remember, in Congo, as having a big belly is a sign of wealth. So in different cultures, being overweight can mean of something positive. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but he does need to trim down. But luckily, he got the job done, and he's a big player in the game. He needs to get himself a big fight, because I can see he has potential to win a world title, mate. In my opinion.
no, he could do if he. There's a few things I think he needs to work on, like footwork and movement. But outside of that, like his I mean, look, his defense is pretty good when he does employ, especially when he was leaning back on the ropes. I really thought that was that was good when he was using his arms to almost feel which way that Carlos Takam was going to go, and anytime he felt Carlos shift, he was ready for he blocked. He had the defense ready on both sides. I thought that was quite slick. But yeah, if you can work on his footwork a little bit and just work on sort of trapping and cutting off the ring, when he's fighting there with especially the smaller guys, like the Michael Hunter size guys, he should be all right. But I want to see what he does next. But as big up to Smallsy, because he put that Bakole and Zhang would be a great fight. I actually wrote that on Twitter as well, so I don't know if you saw that tweet, but we're clearly thinking the same way. I like that one, and obviously the Makhmudov fight. It's not. I thought the two of them should have been fighting each other on that card anyway. But now that they both got the separate wins, maybe when they do the next Saudi card, maybe they can have the two of them fight each other for like a number one like a final eliminator or something. That would be pretty cool.
You think they'll
But
step
yeah,
Magomedov up? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's no reason for them not to. At the end of the day, like they can't keep feeding him the guys they've been feeding him. Carlos Sakam's obviously his best win. It's the only guy who's taken him the distance, and Bakole's now stopped him in 4 rounds. So you've already got the little narrative there because that was the last opponent. So it makes sense. And obviously they've done the Carlos and Martin thing with the whole both of them beating Tony Yoka, so put them both together. So it makes sense to then have that as a natural progression. And ultimately, look, he's an animal, but we need to see what he's like against other people in and around his class because, like I said, he's had a couple of decent fights, a couple of decent fighters, but ultimately we need to see exactly where he is. He does need that step up to like sort of the B level guys or the sort of just below that elite, just so we can get a firm gauge what his chin's like properly, and how we could navigate against better people. But anyway, let's not dwindle. We went on that for a lot longer than we were supposed to. Right, Fabio and Adeleye. We'll move over to that one. So Wardley, Adeleye. Give me your thoughts on that one. How did you see it? How did you initially think it was going to go, and how did you see the fight playing out?
I initially thought that Fabio would stop him. Funny enough, it's funny. The closer to the fight, when we began talking to each other, we actually had the exact same reasons. Because I'm a man. I always look at a man. No wise people before you start. I always look at people's legs, and like forearms, neck, certain bits which are gonna either help you with power punching or places where you're going to be vulnerable to taking shots. And I always notice that Adela's legs are very skinny, and he also, the way he walks, his right leg is very straight. So I was thinking, if he takes a shot, that right leg's going to lock up, and that's going to be a problem for him when taking a shot. So I thought the way Fabio Wardley lets his hands go, and the way Adeleye, his output is not. He likes to try and sort of plod around and try to look for little pot shots here. He fights a bit like my friend Marvin, funny enough. I always thought that the work rate of Wardley was always going to get to him and stop him. And ultimately, that's what it did. And I was surprised that Adeleye got tired so quick because he was breathing like a 20-day smoker. Whereas Wardley, he seemed fresh as a daisy. Yes, he was able to land a few booming left hooks, Adeleye, but nothing really wobbled Wardley. The way he's talking about, if I hit you, I'm going to hurt you because Gorman hurt you and Molina hurt you. But Adeleye didn't hurt Wardley like they did. And Gorman, I would assume, is a lesser puncher than someone like Adeleye. But sometimes it's who you're hitting. Well, you might think your power is more devastating than it is. But it was weird that Wardley has a funny thing. I've seen him do it before. He'll be in the middle of a clinch, and then he'll just drop his hands and start looking outside and get banged in the face. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Before in the danger zone, but at the same breath, he then turned it around in the clinch later in the 7th, and in the clinch, he just pushed him off, bam, bam, and just licked man down. And what it is, I don't know if I want to say it here or I'll wait till I do it. But the thing is, Adeleye, he listen. I know he tries to do the roadman thing, but I'm sure a lot of us are on Instagram, and we've all seen that thing where they go to South London, always greasy, scary. You go to East London, yo, North London, and West London. Hi guys. So the West London thing. Man can't really rate the West London road. I'm not saying there ain't man them everywhere, because the thing is, Wardley is actually right. He's from Ipswich here, but I know Ipswich, and Ipswich has two kind of greasiest hoods, and Wardley's from one of them called Chantry. Big up my Ipswich man, them. Yeah. So Adeleye thinking that because he's from Ipswich, he's some kind of country bumpkin. It went the wrong way because Wardley. He's a Niger man too, just like you, Adeleye. So he's got that tribal spirit and that tribal pride, and that came out there in the fight. Unfortunately for you, you thought he was going to come up to his calf and eat and get the Wardley special, but he served you 2 egg and chipses and two big black puddings, and it was nuts. It was nuts. You know, now they've memed you. They've got your tongue out. You know, with blood in your tongue, and we're not going to go into Jamaican verbiage on here, but you know where I'm drifting.
Yeah, I
But
know.
yeah. So hopefully, there's a valuable lesson. Listen, as I said to you, look at this as a minor setback for a major comeback. You've got some decent attributes, but just be you, start being a nice guy and stuff like that. You don't need to go down the roadman narrative. You definitely don't need to go down the roadman narrative, because you can be promoting something a lot more positive, which you've never spoken about yet. We will talk about that at some point, but yeah, you need to promote some other stuff, some of that positive stuff you've got going on in your life, similar to some other boxers who never talk about that type of life. They stick to promoting that other side of their life, which is the positive stuff. So, but more power to, and big up Fabio Wardley. Well done. You retained your British title, got the Commonwealth and 2 other belts. And I'd like to see him against Fraser Clark or Solomon Dakers. I saw Frank Warren alluding to, because he's now signed Solomon. But yeah, man, when Wardley lets his hands go, he knows how to fight. He's a man that I can tell he knows how to scrap on the cobbles, and he's translated that into the ring very well.
Yeah, so Wardley had the British and the WBA Continental. He won the WBO European from David Adeleye, and then he got the vacant Commonwealth. So
Adeleye, not Adeleye. That's what.
No, it's Adeleye. Trust me, it's Adeleye, and I'll tell you why afterwards.
Okay,
that's actually how it's pronounced. But But the thing is, I'm not gonna argue with anyone else and make anyone else pronounce it different. But I just know how it's pronounced. I've been told by certain mans and clans. Look, no, that's how the man's name's supposed to be pronounced. You get me? So
okay,
I follow code. So he came in with 2 belts, left with 4. So not a bad night's work overall, and probably got apparently that paycheck that them got was bigger than what Dillian and AJ got for their British fight. So yeah, I mean levels. That's cost of living rises all sorts, but hey, they done the thing. Big ups to them. One thing I'll say regarding that is I saw David's last fight at York Hall, and to me, when I saw that fight and I saw him getting pressured by that guy, whose name I don't remember off the top of my head, and I'm not going to go and research it right now.
Sokolowski?
No. The York Hall, his last fight, his very last fight, the one just before this one. I was there. I was in attendance, but I don't remember the guy's name. But he was. I think he might have been from Poland or somewhere like that.
That tall big one where he hit with the body shot and then swiped him with the hook after.
No, that's Beju. That's the one. I think that's 2 fights before, or 1 fight before that. Yeah, this one, it was the one that happened in what was it, June, something like that. But anyway, the reason I remember it is because I was there and the guy was actually backing him up throughout the majority of the fight. And David obviously was landing some good shots, but he was getting backed up and he was catching the guy in the clinch for the most part, or using the dirty forearm, trying to push his neck off of his head, basically off of his shoulders over the ropes and stuff. Tony's got Amir Artemov, that guy. Yeah, thank you for that, Tony.
Armatovic.
Yeah, that guy.
Armatovic.
Yeah. So we was so when I watched it, but I saw he was getting backed up by him. So I'm like, all right, if you're fighting sort of a guy like this and you can't hold center ring here, in your own drum sort of thing, I thought I don't know how well you can box off the back foot, because he wasn't really boxing that well off the back foot. It was mainly when he was in the clinches getting dirty that he was able to affect the most of his the majority of his work. And so because of that, I was like, when it comes to this fight, if you can't hold center ring, I don't think you're going to be able to have the same power or impact, especially when Fabio's probably going to be looking to. If he's going to be on the front foot, his power to me is going to translate a lot more, especially with, as we're talking about, the legs. And that situation. So that's kind of when I said to myself, yeah, I feel like Fabio wins. I did think that there could be a point where, you know, David might hurt him with something, might catch him, hurt him, stun him, try to jump in, and then Fabio maybe will get active himself, either fight him off or sort of go down swinging, and then maybe have to sort of recompose himself. But it didn't. We didn't get to that stage, luckily. But yeah, it was a big statement win for him. Big ups to him, and he done his thing. So I guess. Oh, just to I know Philip Answer was asking about he put in there asking about Moses Atalma. No, we didn't. I didn't forget Moses, Philip, but we're not going to go into the fight. It lasted 2 rounds. It was what it was. We all know what Moses is as a prospect. So we'll probably cover a fight for him again, sort of when he's in, you know, with an opponent, or you know, that we can consider either a gatekeeper or someone that's just before gatekeeper level, and obviously we'll talk about that. All right, so moving on to what we want to do. Obviously, we need to leave the big, you know, the big talking point until right at the end. But I want to take it over to Matchroom Cancun real quick. So, did you watch that event as well, right?
No, if you're talking about what's his name,
Shaki Foster, Rocky
no,
Hernandez.
I literally only saw the finish on YouTube highlight on a YouTube highlight. So
Okay, cool. I'll talk about those two quickly, and then we'll get to obviously like the main event of the night. So, Justice Hooney versus Andrew Tabiti. To me, that fight there, I knew it would be a fight whereby it was going to go the distance, because I knew Andrew was going to be slick enough, basically to not take anything super flush. I was shocked by how much he ended up on the ropes. I didn't think that Justice would actually be able to back him up and keep him on the ropes as much as he did. So I was surprised by that. I thought there'd be more boxing and trading sort of in the center of ring. But I know with Justice's new style, he is very much wanting to sit more in the pocket, stay on someone's chest, and like wear them down. That style, I prefer how he boxed when he started off as a pro, you know, more from his amateur days, because he's not the biggest one punch knockout artist. He's not that guy. Obviously, he's got very quick hands. He's got very good combinations. So rather than try and put yourself in danger to land those critical shots, I prefer when he's boxing at range, sort of, you know, raiding in and out and basically just busting up his opponent and basically stopping them via like accumulation. Um, and that's, to him, it's just a lot safer, because if you see a lot of his earlier fights, he doesn't take anywhere near as many shots. Like he's got really good head movement, and he's got very quick feet. So it's like it just feels like he's stifling his own natural attributes just to prove that he's like this really big, tough, rugged fighter, which he doesn't need to do. And ultimately, at some point, I don't think it will be anytime soon, because Justice is a really good he is a really good prospect and a really good talent. But at some point in the future, I can see that being his undoing if he sort of carries on in that vein. Like I said, he doesn't. We already know that he's peak tough. You know, Samoan bloodline. We know that you've got that chin. We know that you can, you know, you can go to the trenches if you need to, but you should go to the trenches if you need to. You shouldn't be begging to go there. That you shouldn't be willing to go in there like from the offset and give your opponent a chance when they didn't really need one. So that's sort of my thoughts on that. But it was a good, nice competitive fight. So I was comfortable with it. There's a few things I want to see him. I want to see him sort of work and soak up with. But other than that, yeah, it was a pretty good performance. It was an interesting fight, and I enjoyed watching it. Moving
What I
on.
will ask you though,
Yeah.
you see, with this Honey, my only concern is Andrew Tabiti is a cruiserweight, and he's a man who has been knocked out a couple of times. So don't you think
Only
just
once. Only once.
only once? Sorry, but he's been on the floor and stuff. But don't you think the Honey guy, his problem's going to be an issue with power, lack of power when he steps up in level? Because he was hitting, I heard he was hitting him with a lot of shots, and he wasn't able to really do much. Like they weren't really damaging him with these shots.
Well, the thing is, also, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have to repeat the favor. It's Hooney, so it's, yeah,
Sorry,
not
Hooney.
Honey.
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry.
but he was like, "All right, honey, no, it's not that time."
Yeah, I shouldn't even be so comfortable with that.
All right, getting back to it. No, but if we think about it, let's be real. Like Andrew Tabiti was knocked out by Junio Dorticos. I mean, that's not exactly, everyone knows he's pound for pound was one of the hardest punchers in boxing. And he again that sort of that slim, wiry frame, that wiry, country type strength. Um, so yeah, I wouldn't really count that as much of an indictment. But with obviously moving up to heavyweight, number one, with clearly he's probably got a bit more size, around his body now, so he's able to absorb some shots a little bit better. And also because he's been fighting very defensively, you can kind of see that he's he's seeing a lot more of the stuff, and he's probably managing his reserves, because when he fought Dorticos, like obviously he was getting sort of busted up from early, but it was late in the fight when he tired. And because he was tired at these times, it's like, oh, I need to I guess he just, he couldn't see that he couldn't get out of the way of that particular punch. But yeah, Dorticos, yeah, he hits much harder than than uh than Justice Hooney does. So that's not even a concern to me. Um, my issue, yeah, like I said with you, the power thing is going to be an issue if he does, like I said, if he just stays trying to be this inside the pocket fighter, trying to get people out of there because you can come a cropper. But if he sticks to his boxing, there's a lot of proper elite boxers whereby they've got enough snap to keep him honest, but maybe it's just going to take a lot longer to get someone out of there. But you just got to be more smart about it. And I think that he can be that guy, but he's got to go back to ultimately what was working for him at the start, as opposed to what it is now. Yeah, but that's sort of how I kind of see that one. Um, but yeah, now okay. So moving on to the main event. All right, so Oshaki Foster, what's his nickname? It's Shock. They call him Shock something. I can't remember the rest of
Yeah,
it, but they wasn't.
yeah, because I know the other guy was called something like Thunder or Shock because it was something to match. There was a little. Both of their nicknames kind of coincided with each other.
Well, no, it's Eduardo Rocky Hernandez. So he's
Yeah,
Rocky.
yeah, Rocky and Shock something. I remember that. Yeah, I remember I saw a poster where they put their thing and it kind of matched the way that I like the way their nicknames matched up.
Yeah, but what they did, but the whole the whole thing, they didn't actually call him Oshaki at any point during the fight. They kept calling him Shock. So throughout the like sort of the start of it. So I thought, oh, okay, that must be something rather interesting. Um, but with regards to that, oops, hold on.
Boys,
Yeah,
I mean, they're calling him Ice Water. His
it might
alias.
be that. It might have been like Shock Ice. Yeah, Shock Ice Water Foster, I think is what they said on the
Yeah.
broadcast. But I remember they just kept calling him Shock, not Shaq, not Oshaki. But anyway, that being said now, so with this fight, this is one of the ones I got wrong. This is the only fight I got wrong on the weekend. Because I did think everything being, it being in Mexico, being in Cancun, everything, um, smaller ring. I knew that it would be a pretty small ring, and it looked like it was a 16 by 16, maybe 18 by 18. I just felt that he would win sort of the first half of the fight, but Hernandez will basically just sort of keep plugging away, and Oshaki might end up getting a bit tired, sort of towards the sort of the mid to late rounds, and end up just sort of taking a flurry and getting taken out in like sort of the maybe I think I'm thinking maybe around 9, 10, 11, somewhere around there. Well, ultimately it actually ended up being the total opposite, whereby um you had Hernandez kind of, he was more active at the start, Shaq was, circling the periphery, trying to find his, sort of trying to find his range, almost pot shotting at times and just letting, Hernandez get his work off. But then towards the later rounds, I think one of his team might have said, "Oh, yeah, I think you're down on these cards. You got to take these rounds." And ultimately, at that particular point, that's when he started to hold his feet a bit more, stay in the clinches as well, a little bit, and he just started to let his hands go. And while I knew he had power, like I never knew he had like that kind of power, whereby yeah, he was literally on smoke from I think round 8 onwards. So for the first to the last sort of 4 rounds of the fight, yeah, he was on smoke. Round 10 was a good round for him. Round 9 was a good round, even though one of the judges didn't think so. But yeah, that's another story for another time. And then round 11. Now, round 11, as I said, it reminds me very much of round 5 from last year with Kenshiro Taraji and Hiroto Kiyaguchi, whereby one guy is just piecing up the other guy for the first half of it, almost like maybe feel like they punched themselves out a bit, gets caught with a counter, and all of a sudden they're at risk of getting knocked out for the next, sort of for the next minute or so before they manage to sort of take it back, take sort of control over the fight again and get it cracking at the last few seconds of the round and manage to sort of keep on their side. But on this one, the difference was apart from maybe 3 punches, I think that Hernandez threw, everything else was very much arm punches, off balance punches. So there wasn't a huge amount of that power in them. So I feel like Shaun Foster was quite comfortable taking those shots, or at least some of them. I think obviously there's a couple that sort of buzzed him and maybe made him drop his hands a bit. But yeah, he got to once he got to that kind of level, he was like, all right, no, I'm cool, I'm composed. And then at that point, I think that was literally his last salvo. So when it came to that, I think it was just a case of, yeah, okay, I'll put in the last bit of effort that I had, and yeah, it's pretty much over with now. And then the last round, to be fair, I mean, look, Hernandez, he did get knocked down twice, but he got back up. He wanted to see out the fight because I think he thought in his mind, if I can see out this last round, I've won this fight on points. I think he was that confident in the work that he done early in the fight. And technically, with the 2 knockdowns, I think he actually still would have because it was the cards was 11-0 and 8-3 to him, and then the other one was 7-4. So even if you got 8-4 with 2 points off, that's like 114, 112. And the other one would have been, well, the other one obviously would have been 120, 106. No, it would have been 118, 108 for the other one. And then Shaq's one would have been 116, 110. So yeah, he would have got it on a split decision, but Shaun Foster's like, nope, we're not having that. You are not getting any parts of this belt from me. And big up to him. It was a clinical finish. He's shown that he's arrived. So now it's just time for them to get the Cordina fight over the line. That will be a unification I would definitely be interested in. And I do not know who will win at this point, but I think I know who I'll put my money on it right now. But yeah. All right. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna. What time have you got on your clock, Danny?
I've got 109.
Okay, brilliant. So, with that being said, we're gonna go into obviously big talking point from the weekend, which was Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. Ultimately, here's what I want to kind of say about this. So, funny enough, prior to the fight, prior to actually coming on here, I watched the fight. Second time I've watched it, and I scored it this time. The first time I didn't score it, I was just kind of watching it. This time I did. So the scorecard I had was I had Tyson Fury winning the first round. Second round, it was a swing, but I had Tyson Fury winning the second. I had Francis obviously winning the third and winning the fourth. I had Tyson winning the fifth, and I had Tyson winning the sixth, both of which were. I felt as if basically he could have there was moments where you could have given it to Francis, but I think Tyson did slightly more in those rounds. Round 7 was a Ngannou round. Round 8 was an Ngannou round, and then round 9 and round 10, I also had the swing rounds, but I just edged them both to Tyson Fury. So I had it 6-4 Fury. I had it 95-94 to him overall, but there was no round apart from round 1 for him that he actually won clearly, in my opinion. Like, even though rounds 5 and 6 I gave him to him, uh they weren't necessarily swing rounds, but they were still very close. Whereas the rounds for Ngannou, rounds 3, 4, 7, and 8 were very, very clear Ngannou rounds. And it was one of those things. It was very telling that a lot of the things that Fury likes to impose and likes to do in a fight, he wasn't able to do. Obviously, yeah, he's taller than Francis, but his reach isn't much longer. Therefore, he doesn't have that same advantage of being able to get in and out. And Ngannou is actually naturally more athletic. He's quicker on his feet, as you can see there, stepping into stepping into the range. You can see every time he was front foot feinting, like he had Fury pretty much biting. Every time he wanted to get into range, he had sort of Joe Joyce type movement with his legs. Like, he's actually very quick to get into position when he chooses to go there. And I was pretty impressed by a lot of his actual boxing fundamentals, and even by, I guess, you see from his UFC days, he wasn't actually his stand-up game was always pretty good when it came to his movement. Obviously, you have to adjust and worry about kicks and stuff, but you could always see the stance he held was always more of a boxing type stance, as opposed to like an MMA type stance when he was in the ring. So I was never one of those people that said, "Oh, it was a total mismatch in that sense." I just always said that I wasn't interested in seeing it because I didn't ask for this fight. Um, I
Mm.
was always willing and happy for Francis that he got it, in terms of, like, if anyone got this opportunity, it was him. But my thing was more a criticism of Tyson Fury and what he's not doing, as opposed to a slight on Francis Ngannou. And ultimately, I'm happy that he got this, because, as I said, um on my video, regardless of what my scorecard or what anyone's scorecard say or anything, like, Francis Ngannou won the fight. Like, he won the fight in the hearts and minds of the people. He won the fight based on the fact he should have never been able to go 10 rounds. He won the fight on the fact that he dropped the quote unquote best heavyweight of this era, the best heavyweight ever, by some delusional people think. So ultimately, he won, and that's how I've always looked at it. So yes, even though my scorecard will say that Fury got 6 rounds in there, like, just about, there was 3 swing rounds that quite easily could have swung the other way, and we could be talking a whole different story. But it doesn't matter, because, as Francis said himself, if it went to the cards, I was never gonna win. He said he knew that, but he won, and everyone thinks he won. So from there, like, yeah, his stock can only rise. So quite frankly, I feel like the next thing he should just do to get a quick victory back, just face ultimately just needs to face Derek Chisora, get a Chisora fight in. Uh, then you can be 1-1. Maybe if you can find someone else to fight after that, 2-1, and then go for one of the big names, whether it's AJ or Wilder, a Fury rematch, if he wants to do it again, which I don't think he does. I don't think he wants that smoke again, to be totally honest with you. Fury, I mean, I'm not even going to say Fury shot to pieces, quite frankly. I've always said that he's not what people have made him out to be. Um, I had to quiet those takes a little bit after the Dillian White fight, but with that being said, like, he never fought Dillian the way that I thought he was going to fight Dillian. He went back on the back foot, which is not how I was expecting to fight. I thought he was going to employ that Deontay Wilder style, but ultimately I had to keep quiet a little bit. But I always knew that he was going to get exposed sooner or later for not being this mythical god that people believed him to be. I just didn't think it would be Francis would be the one that exposed it. I thought it would be more Usyk or someone with a lot quicker movement. But as we saw, Ngannou is very quick. He's a lot quicker than Fury. He's a lot quicker at cutting off range. And Fury couldn't do his leaning on wearing down tactic, which he loves to try and do to people. And now he met someone that could match him for size, and he didn't like it. So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts. I don't even really want to get into like technical breakdowns of it. What did you think of the fight, Danny, from watching it?
Yeah, I actually scored it the exact same way as you did. 6-4 plus the knockdown, so 95-94. But as you said, so yes, that's what I was always trying to get across to people, that yes, from the street sense, if you're talking about if it was an actual fight, an actual rockers, then yes, Francis Ngannou won. But if you're scoring it round by round, your scorecard will actually sometimes in a few fights not read out the way the story of the fight went. Kind of like how Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed in the first fight. Yes, he lost, but he won. Do you know what I mean? And he was giving it to him late on. Fury, I don't think he's shot. I said he was washed, but that's just, you know, when you just call people washed for the sake of it. I was just saying that. But what was very evident, I saw it, is he's a man who is, for his size, he's not strong. He's only strong because when he's, you know, leaning and pushing around a man who's 212 pounds in Deontay Wilder and leaning and wearing him out and stuff like that. But because Ngannou was only 7 pounds lighter, he wasn't able to physically move it. Ngannou was framed around where it had Fury staggering like he'd been punched. And it was like, if Ngannou knew how to sort of rush over and clap him in his head, he'd have gone over again. So it was interesting. So I was going to mention it in the when you was interviewing Shaun George, but I thought I'll save it for the breakdown. So yeah, what I have noticed is when Fury fights people who are heavy as well, before I thought it was a 6-3 problem, but now I've realized also when he fights people who are heavy, i.e. John McDermott, and he's a fat guy himself, he got beat by him. His dad even admitted it. When he fought now you're saying Ngannou now, and then also I think that'll be another factor, whereas someone who is naturally big and not fat big, he's just a big dude in Zhang, he's just a big dude. So Fury ain't going to be able to manhandle him. So what's going to happen there? And Zhilei Zhang, you know, he could, if he hits Tyson Fury, and he knows how to throw them punches, and he's got them quick, fast twitch muscles in his shoulders. So that could be a very big problem. And southpaw as well. So yeah, and now Usyk, he's seen. I always knew Usyk's movement would be a problem, and this just shown even more so because. But the thing with Francis Ngannou, the only shame is he's 37 now, so he's going to be one of them what if stories. Imagine if he started 10 years ago, because he'd been working with Mike Tyson, so he's taken this fight so seriously. Mike Tyson, his phone book's going to be going off the hook now because he's the new customato in town, and he was in. You saw Francis Ngannou using the exact same moves. Tyson's telling him the jab to the body over. Like when we're seeing the little videos, we're thinking, oh yeah, whatever, just whatever. He ain't gonna be able to pull this off, but he was actually pulling off the moves Mike Tyson's telling him to do. So, and we've seen clips of Mike Tyson in the crowd saying, "Yeah, I told him to do Superman punch, try that out," and he's doing everything. So he is a proper student of the game, like this guy. He's so humble that and you can see he proper looks up to Mike Tyson, like he's trying all the moves and stuff, and it was working. So Mike Tyson as a coach, great coach. Yeah, that weed sure ain't got to him. I know he probably plays around a bit on set, but that probably acts a bit more high than he really is, because Mike Tyson knows what he's doing when it comes to that corner work. And yeah, Francis Ngannou, if only he was a bit younger, man, I think we'd be looking at a real serious heavyweight contender right there. But yeah, Tyson Fury, yeah, I don't think he trained his best for the fight, but really you can't be going life and death, getting dropped by a UFC guy who doesn't use boxing techniques, the way they punch and stuff, and he's using big gloves. You shouldn't be going over. Your brother got dropped by a YouTuber in Jake Paul, so now you both hit the deck. You both just scrape through. You know, it's not looking good for the family, man. You know, you say no man born from his mother can beat you and all that, but what I saw there, if that was in UFC, it'd be a 1 minute job. So
But you know, it's funny you say that because I was well, actually, there's a question I'm going to be asking tomorrow, so I might not necessarily say it here, but it's very similar to what you've just said there, about Tommy and Tyson, in the fact that you had Tommy that went life and death with Jake Paul and KSI, two YouTubers who've only been boxing for like 5 years. You're supposed to be boxing when you were 6. And then Tyson, who went life and death with an MMA guy on his professional boxing debut. Yes, he's got good skills or whatever, but this is his first professional boxing fight. And you've gone life and death from having to fight off of the canvas. Like, there's a serious question that needs to be asked about the mystique and the quote unquote, you know, Fury genes, if that's
yeah,
the case.
yeah, and remember Ngannou, yeah, he's a UFC fighter, but it's not like he's one of them guys who was doing BJJ and all that from young. Remember, he started MMA as a big man. Remember, his main adult life, he's trying to flee and trying to get out of Cameroon, trying to cross the border. So it's not even like he had a serious, big, extensive amateur background and going through the what's it, NAACP or what's that thing Brock Lesnar used to do back in the day?
Oh, NAACP.
Yeah, NAACP. It's not like he went through all of that stuff. You know what I mean? So Ngannou's MMA career is even limited. So it's not even like you're dealing with a Gracie level type MMA guy, or you know, a Randy Couture and Tito Ortiz. You're dealing with a man who ain't even been doing MMA that long, let alone boxing. So you're near enough dealing with what some could say almost a civilian. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a good look, man. But hey, big up to Francis Ngannou. I only got 10 M's. So Dana White, get your checkbook out and get this John Jones fight over the line, because yesterday's price is not today's price. And yeah, man, Fury. He's talking about the suing if you don't December 23rd, and as we've all heard now, he's his fault now. He's saying he don't want to fight. So we know it's always been his problem, his fault. When Usyk's telling us this guy here who's holding up proceedings, we can all see who's holding up proceedings, because Usyk's ready. He's ready like Freddy. Do you know what I mean? And anyone trying to talk that talk, I saw on Twitter someone talking about, oh well, Usyk got a controversial win over Daniel Dubois. No, the difference is when Usyk got up, Usyk closed the show and dealt with Dubois the way a champion is meant to deal with somebody after adversity. So it's not the same thing. And Daniel Dubois is not Francis Ngannou. Yeah. So.
All right, Danny. So Ellis Palmer, big member of the channel, has asked the question: what's your scoring criteria for scoring a boxing match? So tell him yours, and then I'll tell him what mine is afterwards.
Punches landed with sufficient force, ring generalship, yeah, they're the main two key criteria for me. Punches landed with sufficient force. Oh yeah, damage inflicted. Yes, some people will say, because what it is, as you said, what people get excited about is that the rounds that Ngannou won, which was 4 rounds, he won them more emphatically than Fury did. When Fury's winning the rounds, he was clapping Ngannou with a lot of 1-2s. The only thing is, when he was clapping him with the 1-2s, it wasn't having no effect, including the elbow had no effect. So nothing had an effect on him. Whereas when Ngannou's hitting Fury, you can see the spray coming off his head. You can see he's backing up. His eyes are bulging out his head. He's getting dropped. So it's just looking a lot worse when he's losing the rounds. But Fury was accumulating more rounds in the bank overall, clapping him with a lot of 1-2s down the pipe. But he had a stake out at the end of the day. But yeah, those are the criteria for me.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, hold on. Alexander Wilson has put it as NCAA. That's the one for the National College American Association of Wrestling, I think it is. Yeah, I knew that was something like that. Right. So with regards to that, yeah. So my criteria are similar to you. Like, clean effective striking, ring generalship, um, the also like if a fighter's busy, like if it's a low volume, then the person who's busy or controlling the action will get my consideration. And if someone fights, say, all right, say for instance that one person lands 12 shots, 9 of them are jabs, um, 2 body shots and 1 power punch. But then another guy might say land only 5 shots, but three of them are like powers and then maybe 1 jab and 1 to the body. Then at that instance, I have to see who dictated the pace in the rounds, because ultimately, unless like your 5 shots, even though they're power shots, unless they visibly wobbled or down the opponent, I've got to say, well, the other guy is still he's outlanded you. If he's controlled how the ring has gone as well, then I'd give it to him. Otherwise, I'd give it to the person who's obviously landed the harder shots, especially if he was maybe sort of blocking or slipping some of the others, walking down the other person, making them have to work those extra shots. So sometimes it's different criteria for different scenarios. Like it can't always be a one size fits all, but generally speaking, it's for me it's based on activity and the effectiveness of the shots that are going through. Big up to Alexander Wilson with the super chat, $10 super chat. He said, when Fury clinched Francis in the second round, Francis created space and was able to get off shots on him that really surprised Fury. Chisora, White, and Wilder could not do that in their fights. Very true. He was able to create separation because he's used to clinching naturally. That's a part of the game that they teach you in MMA. So you know how to get and work the clinch correctly. Whereas in boxing, because it's not necessarily deemed a legal move, it's not only certain people know how to handle it effectively up on the inside. But yeah, look, Danny, before we head out, is there any you got any other final thoughts before we call it a night?
No, I just wanted to say that event in itself just looked very star studded. Had I known, with due notice that it was going to be like that, I would have probably saved my pennies and probably tried to get out there with due notice and that. But yeah, if I know that next year they've got something going on, I will try to get out there if they're going to put something like that on again, because that looked amazing. I'd love to fill up my black book, but to get some links, because you can definitely get some links to London out there. But yeah, good event, and just decent set of boxing. Yourself?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, you Riyadh season, it happens the same time every year. So ultimately, the same time, just if you're gonna do it, as you said, maybe just start saving from early, just in case. And then if it doesn't work, then you've got money for a next holiday or whatever. But yeah, quickly, his message here from Ellis. He says it can be a one size fits all. Unified criteria is an absolute must for this sport. In MMA, we can break down results and call out judges for poor decisions. In boxing, we call it subjective. And listen, I agree with you to an extent, but ultimately, there has to be a bit of subjectivity in any type of scoring, because if you do every single thing to the letter of the law, I mean, okay, put it this way, look at VAR in football for a reason. They've got a set of rules that most people don't understand, but they're applying those rules. But those rules are actually causing more issues because they don't account for human error. They don't account for like slight movement of a person just before a ball is kicked. They don't count. There's a lot of things that a unified system can't account for. So you have to be able to give people a leeway to a degree, like a tiny, like a 5% leeway in how they view something, because ultimately not everyone boxes to the same rules. The same in like tennis. In tennis, you've got, it's quite clear. It's clear cut. It's just one way to play, and it's all about the lines, and that's fairly easy. Something like this, you've got some people that they box from a different a different position than other people. They're orthodox and southpaw. Ultimately, then you've got something that's totally different because you're negating a certain way to strike. So I get what you're saying, and yes, there should be more of a unification of how the rules are employed, but they can't just be I don't think they can just be uniformed and robotic. Otherwise, it will ultimately you'll be stopping fights every moment. In
Yeah.
that sense. So
And
that's
with
my sort
MMA
of
as
thought on
well.
it.
Yeah, with MMA as well, it ain't no calling out judges all the time because it can be subjective. Because sometimes when you got a guy who's landed strikes, but then there's a guy who's landed a few takedowns, it's what the judges prefer because there's grapplers and there's strikers, former judges, or it depends what you prefer as well. When you're dealing with combat sports, it can always be subjective of what you prefer, who you liked, who you thought was controlling the fight, but another person might see it a different way, especially if you're on a different side of the octagon or the ring, or if you're watching an event live, or if you're watching at home. Things look a lot different, as me and Base have been to many events live and at home, and when you see it, it look completely different. You could be at a side of a ring post like you was for Gardner Mayer, and that looks totally different to if you was in that centerpiece. And I've been on the corner post as well, working, and it looks totally different to when you're watching it on TV. So it depends your positioning, depends the criteria of your scoring, what you like, what you prefer. Everyone has their preferences at the end of the day. So MMA as well as boxing, there's always got to be subjectivity. There's always got to be controversy, like Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan in their second fight. So let's not act like it's just a boxing problem. Yeah. Also, Star Fox, yes, I'm on a networking thing. I'm trying to get my LinkedIn game up. So thank you very much, brother.
I will. The one thing I will agree with you, Tube Faddy. They do need to have judges should be accountable after fights, especially if you get scorecards that the majority of people aren't happy with. Yes, a lot of the time they will have to go in front of a commission, but you should be allowed to interview a judge in the ring. How did you get to this scorecard or something, or backstage or whatever, but when there's no one else around, and be able to find out their reasoning then and there to determine whether or not you want to take action or whatnot. And then obviously lastly, to finish it off, Ellis says, needs further discussion in my opinion. It's a complicated topic, but different governing bodies have different criteria. Doesn't work for me. That's fair. Well, that's not a problem at all. And big up to Precision who's in the chat. They've been saying quite a few things in there, but we can't really go into that at the moment. So with that being said, where's all right, Danny, your ticker tape here, let the people know where they can find you.
Yes, thank you guys for tuning in once again. It's been much appreciated for you all. And yes, you can find me at Danny Glover on Instagram, or you follow the Fight Fan TV Live page on Instagram. Follow Fight Fan TV Live on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, on Twitter /X. You can find me at Danny Savvy Right. That's DANISAVVY Thank you.
Great stuff. And as for me, everyone, look, you can find me at BaseDaKID, the hardcore casual on YouTube, Instagram BaseDaKID as well. Twitter, you can type in BaseDaKID, I'll show up. Otherwise, just type in B_A_S_E. And for Tony, obviously, he's Pugilistboy on everything except Instagram, where it's Pugilistic boy. But yes, that is pretty much it for the night. Thank everyone for rocking with us. Had quite a good turnout, quite a good crowd, so we appreciate you. And with that being said, we are out. We will be back next week with the Monte Carlo card and whatever else takes place. But yeah, we'll see you then. Till then, big up. Oh, tell him, Danny. What is it? It's persistence.
Persistent beats resistance. You know what it is.